Hey guys, welcome back to We Need to Go Deeper, the podcast where we don't know what the fuck we're doing. My name is Green. As always, I'm joined by Rob from his channel Alpaca Patrol.
Yup, that's me.
Austin from his channel Last Grey Wolf.
What's up, everybody?
Sean from his channel Zen and Cyrene.
Hello, everyone.
And special guest, instead of Cam, Dennis from his channel Definitely Dennis. What's up?
Hey, everybody.
Cam couldn't make it today because, again, motherfucking... everyone is an airplane? Okay, good. I thought he was talking about voice quality for a second. I was like, oh, good, my stream just shit itself.
Why would
Anyway,
make us sound like an airplane?
Everybody sounds like an airplane, man.
I don't know, man. It just sounded like an audio quality problem to me. But no, Cam is not here because, again, his internet is fucking up right at the exact same time as the podcast.
Yeah, which is
So,
weird
conspiracy.
because we changed the day of the podcast, and it's just like Time Warner's like, "Oh, you're podcasting? Fuck you!"
Yeah, it's unbelievable. What is Green's name? My name is Greg. Hi. Okay,
Awkward
so
moment.
anyway, let's talk about some video games. Rob, what do you want to start with?
Well, I mean, we could just jump into, because considering we're on a tight schedule here, we could just jump right into SimCity debacle.
Probably a good
Debacle?
idea. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, Rob and Dennis, I heard you guys bought a game that you weren't allowed to play for a little while. How was that?
Dennis?
I bought the
Way
game.
to shirk the
and,
question, bro.
I have, so I bought the game. No, I bought the game. I didn't have any server issues. Once for 5 minutes I had a server issue. But to be honest, it just wasn't the game that I thought it would be. It really wasn't. And I did put like 80 hours into it, so that wasn't like a rash conclusion I came to, but
Whoa. You put 80 hours into SimCity already?
let me check for sure.
We gotta get some
Yeah, I'm
fact
curious.
We
That's
are
a-
always
I-
100% accurate on We Need to Go
No,
Deeper.
65 hours.
65 hours.
Good,
That's
good.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would have had all these
I put
federations
23
up there.
hours into it, so, you know, similar thing. I mean, I have a similar opinion on it to Dennis. I mean, in all honesty, like before we go into anything else about the whole server issue and all that, because I think that's really an important topic, I think the game is being treated unfairly in major media in certain aspects. The only aspect is that a lot of them are calling for the heads of everyone because the game is bad and all this stuff, and you're really only you're saying, well, it's comparing it to SimCity 4. Which is sort of unfair because SimCity, this new one, is sort of its own animal, really.
Yeah, I mean, you can't compare a bad game to a good game and then be mad at the bad game for being bad. That's not
Right,
fair.
exactly. Well, see,
Yeah,
that's
and
the thing.
SimCity
is
4
that
was a good game.
I think SimCity 5 is not a bad game either. I think
I was
it's
just kidding.
Yeah, no, right, but I mean, I don't think SimCity. But that's what I mean. Like I think a lot of times we're getting that comparison that SimCity 5 is a really bad game. It's not. It's a well-made game. It's pretty. As far as SimCity games are concerned, though, it's not that great. But you also have to keep in mind that the last game, SimCity 4, came out like 8 years ago, maybe more than that, and that was sort of the best entry into the series. So anything they probably would have made would have been, lackluster. Now, that said, there are a lot of problems
hang on.
with
Are
the
you
game.
saying that when they made SimCity 5, because SimCity 4 was 8 years old, they were going to have trouble surpassing it?
No. I was saying that because it was 8 years old, people have nostalgia goggles for that game.
To
And-
an extent, but you could just make a game that's as good as SimCity 4, but like way better graphics and engine and stuff like that. It's kind of low hanging fruit. It seems like. In a lot
Well,
of
I mean,
ways.
yeah, but like I said, that's an unfair comparison because SimCity 5 is a completely different type of SimCity game. And the
Yeah.
thing is, a lot of people are just not totally into the new style.
Yeah,
I
they
am
don't like
among
the
them.
farm fill aspect.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, because the thing is, like, I think people perhaps bought without knowing what they should be expecting. Me being among them. Because if you look even at the artwork of the game, right, the poster, it shows 3 different cities, right, all connected to each other by a bridge or a highway or a rail, right? One of them is like a really dirty industrial city. The other one is a really high-tech snazzy neon light city, and the other one is like a low elevation like sports city with a big stadium in it. So the game is designed around the aspect of playing with friends, which is, what they were trying to say, I think, Maxis was trying to say when they were saying that it can't be offline, perhaps.
I don't think that's...
Well, yeah. I mean, they said that they designed it around that concept.
The quote was, it would take a substantial amount of engineering work to
right,
make
but
the
I'm
game
talking
run
about
offline.
a different quote. The different quote is that we designed it with that in mind. We designed the game with the multiplayer from the beginning, from day one.
Sure, yeah.
Which is true, and the thing is that I think as far as that is concerned, forget all the server issues. I think that was just a failed experiment because it's not that fun to not have an autonomous single city. When you're playing with friends, it's still fun, but I mean, you can't really list that as a feature either because everything's better with friends.
Yeah.
So
and when your interaction with other people is limited to, I'll give you some of my spare police cars and then forget that ever happened.
Right.
It's a very weak form of multiplayer. It reminds me a lot of Facebook games where it's like you just post on your friend's wall, "Hey, I need you to join this game so you can give me a fucking gun so I can play Mafia Wars or something."
Yeah.
It's a very lazy form of multiplayer where they don't really have to do any interaction at all.
The thing is, like, what ended up happening, right, is like we'd all play in a region, and it would be pretty fun because then we'd have one guy would focus on electricity, and he would get electricity for everybody. One guy would focus more on the water, and we all buy water from that guy. One guy would focus on garbage, and we get all the garbage from that guy. But the truth is that that's just not that fun. It's not that interesting. Because when you're playing SimCity, you're not really looking to specialize your city. Like, you learn that you have to do that when you're playing with friends, like 10 hours in, and then the game is much more enthralling when you do that. Because, like, I had cities where I didn't have a single electrical facility anywhere, and I was just buying my power from everyone else in the region, and that was fine, and that was cool. But the thing is, you don't want to specialize your city. I want to be an autonomous city. Like, I want to play my own city, and I want to be judged based on my own ability as a mayor. And
well, too bad, Rob, you only get like 2 square miles.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's what I wanted to bring up. Like, I watched you guys play that game for like 10 to 20 hours over the course of a few days, and the main issue to me, regardless of whether or not it was intentional or what, was that you would fill up your city space within an hour or two of playing, like opening your city, and then you were out of space. And it's like, that feels very constricted. Just even watching it, I was kind of annoyed that you couldn't build any farther out. They had no feel. Your city was always going to be a square no matter what.
And the crazy part is, modders have said that limit is totally fucking arbitrary. And so I'm very sure that in the future, in addition to an offline hack, which already happened and then was patched out, but I'm sure we'll get a better offline hack later, we'll also probably get a lot of hacks to make the gameplay less shitty by like expanding city size and so forth.
Right. Well, they did say that they were going to offer massive city size eventually. But again,
really? Eventually?
This is but again, this is another one of those situations where this is a design flaw and not a multiplayer or server flaw, because that's honestly that's just a design flaw. Is I think that they were intending people to play together, and the truth is that that's just not that good for SimCity.
We'll find out whether or not this massive city size costs money, and then we'll know that.
I don't think they can do that at this point.
Right. I'm just saying if they do, if they have the audacity to do that.
I honestly don't think, like, PR-wise, they don't have the option anymore. Because
right.
Already what's happened, like, this is the other news point, which maybe we're rushing into, but I because it kind of segues. John Riccitello, longtime CEO of Electronic Arts, EA, has stepped down. And, I was talking to actually Alex earlier, a friend of ours. He was saying that it wasn't just SimCity. It was like kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Because look at the failed Old Republic launch. And
they've been fucking up lately.
Yeah, so he's stepped down. So, but I think SimCity is indeed the straw that broke the camel's back. And the truth is, I don't think they can have another PR. Like, if they try to sell anything that is to be looked at as exploitative, then I mean, I don't think they want that kind of bad press anymore. Like already,
I wonder-
it's a
We'll
hassle and a half.
We'll see how smart they are about it.
Yeah, I wonder if this is going to be like, well, we're just going to like a country that has a dictator. If like a new dictator will rise up and just a son of the former and just do everything the same way, or whether or not someone will step up and start to change things and try to do stuff differently.
They're totally going to do it the same way. Look, the
Yeah,
truth
Dennis-
is. Dennis could give you a good example. I mean, give you more insight on this since he's a businessman. But I mean, because like what I was reading about John Riccitello on his Wikipedia, he doesn't have any background in game design. He has a master's degree in business.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dennis, what is your angle on this? Being an economics dude, what do you think EA's game here is?
Honestly, it has nothing to do with the public. It just has to do with pleasing investors. Like that quote we picked up last week, which was about, or maybe 2 weeks ago, which was about how EA plans to put microtransactions into all of their games. That was a quote given at an investor conference for Morgan Stanley, in front of just people that invest in the company. And like, obviously, with bad releases and so on, investors stop investing money, which means EA can't do this. And kind of the common practice just nowadays is to kick out your CEO. Like it happened with Groupon and their stock surged.
Oh, God.
I didn't look at EA's stock, but it probably went up when they kicked their CEO. Because the truth is in business, culture kind of trickles down, so to speak. That's why we have like, great business leaders. Like, you could look at like Gabe Newell or maybe Steve Jobs,
Sure.
And that kind of culture trickles down. So like, if you have a CEO who's really after making money, I mean, yes, annual releases of games that are big titles make money, and they make a lot more money than they would if you did it over 10 or 20 years, But if your company's image suffers in the process, you lose the ability to continue selling. You know what I mean? And although that's not kind of quantifiable on paper, I can't point to a number that says this is what my company rating is, this is how much people love me. It does begin to show where, you start getting less and less pre-sales, you start getting more and more problems, more and more complaints, So, I mean, I think it's a good move. And also what tends to happen is like we hear that the CEO gets kicked out, but also usually upper management goes with that CEO. It's not something like, because the CEO gets kicked out by the board of directors and they usually clean house on all management, and they really just leave like core staff, the programmers, the game designers, and so on. The only thing I wanted to touch on with SimCity is I think EA made the game. They have an enormous budget. If a game like Prison Architect could give me an individual narrative for each of the prisoners in my prison, EA could have done something even close to that, Like there was a great article on like Rock, Paper, Shotgun that citizens didn't even choose. They only chose the shortest path out of your city. Even if it was completely crowded, they refused to use a second road. And that's a silly thing because, then it becomes you just build one long road and that's the best way to do traffic. And that's not how cities look. Clearly, you know what I mean? We'd all be driving to work for hours.
Yeah, I actually noticed that watching you guys play. You'd have a bunch of different roads people could choose, and every single fucking car is on the main strip for no reason.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah exactly.
Like,
and that's a silly thing where, like, yes, I personally don't know. I don't know enough about game logic to, even figure out how difficult that is to do. But honestly, if a lot of these lower budget indie games can come up with something innovative and something interesting, I don't think it's out of the reach of EA. A company with the resources and, quite frankly, probably the people also that can do this. So like that was the one.
The issue is, they're rushed by their being beholden to investors. The investors don't want them to make some sort of brilliantly crafted game. They want them to make something quick that will sell and not spend too much money on it.
Right.
So their hands are tied, but in a completely different sense than indie games.
Right.
are.
Exactly.
Right.
It's similar to like a fast food place compared to like a, like the fast food would be EA, and then like a down home, like
totally a little mom and pop shop
Steakhouse,
that makes really delicious things.
To that earlier point though, and I think this is more that what I want to ask Dennis is that new CEO comes in. Is there any incentive for them to change their policy?
It's not going to change. It's not going to change. It has nothing to do with the CEO. It has to do with exactly what Green said. It has to do with the fact that investors want a return over a certain amount of time. They don't want to wait a long time. There's a reason Valve is successful and allows itself to take 10 years, 5 years to make a game. It's because they don't have an investor pressure. They understand their market, understand what it is. And sadly, until it's quantifiable, like, what your company's PR is and how that really affects you, it's going to stay that way. It's going to stay away. The CEO's responsibility is to answer to the shareholders, no one else. He doesn't care about the public, and as long as the games sell, they sell, I've also heard nightmares about how it is to work at EA, how they're forced to work long hours, how, how, there's very little creative spirit, and that happens when there's a lot of top-down control.
That's how the game industry is right now. With very few exceptions, working in video games is terrible because everybody wants to do it. So if you end up in there, they can make you do whatever the fuck they want, because if you're gone, they can just find somebody else to replace you unless you're really, really good or important for some reason.
That's true.
And they will find all these people because there are people chomping at the bit to get in.
Yeah, exactly.
The games industry.
It's swamped. It's saturated.
Yeah. I had considered a career in game design as well. But reading stories on Game of Sutra. By the way, if anyone is interested in the business side of gaming, and not just a straight up just news hey, this is a thing coming out, a Game of Sutra is a good place to go. They have a bunch of really interesting articles, and that's the kind of thing that they talk about all the time. Is that when you are working at a company that or a studio under some sort of developer, some sort of publisher, like an in-house studio at EA, say Maxis. Or maybe what Bungie was, it's terrible because you have a job, you have a role, and it's a lot like a desk job. It's just you do a thing and you have no creative control, and if you decide you don't want to do that anymore, you can be easily replaced. They could get another mapper, they could get another programmer, it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
if you want to have a fun job in video games, you want to be an indie developer for sure.
Yeah, but then you'll be poor.
Yeah, you will be very poor. And I was going to say, not that indie developers are super happy, fun people. If you look at Indie Game the movie, it's a very stressful job as well. But that's the only way to really be in charge of what you're doing.
That whole scenario has caused this sad stagnation in games over the past few years.
Yeah.
AAA titles 7 or so years ago used to be a big deal for everyone. Everyone loved the AAA titles, and they were big releases, and they took a long time to build. I remember, you go back to Halo when it was just the first 3 games. Those games, what were the in between? 5 or 6 years in between those games?
Instead quite a while.
The 1 to 2 that they are now.
Yeah,
and it was a big deal. But now, and the games were really well made, and they took time and effort into the game, and now it's just they're very stale.
And also, the difference, too, is, you look at Halo, the original Halo, right? It's well, now you can look back on it and say, whoa, Bungie were geniuses. That's a great idea, what they did with Halo. But at the time, even, that was a risk, that game. They spent millions of dollars on that game. And, one, it was a company that originally was an RTS developer, and they wanted to make Halo an RTS. And they wanted to make a sci-fi space opera first-person shooter on a console, which at the time was a big risk. And developers, publishers just aren't really willing to make that risk because I think that they, like we were saying, are indebted to the investor. And if the investor doesn't make his money back, there's no reason for him to invest. He wants to make his money back. He doesn't really care about innovation or anything. You want a return on investment. And a lot of times, if you take a risk, you can get screwed.
I don't think people realize how beholden these companies are to the investor and how much it affects. If you see a couple of years ago, hey, Facebook games, or iOS games, a lot of the investors aren't necessarily savvy to what makes gameplay good. So they see all these things, it's success with some people, and they're like, hey, you know what? Why aren't you doing it? We'll put our money in you, now get to work.
Yeah, exactly. They want to backseat game develop. Yeah.
And the truth is, this is a problem in not just gaming. This is a problem in a lot of major media. Music struggled with, this exact same situation. Music struggled with in the 80s. To a large degree is still struggling with today. It's the same idea as creative control on the people with the money. Same with movies, film industry. I mean, you can actually liken a lot of what's happening in game industry today to the studio era in the 50s and 60s of film. And then the renaissance that happened in the 90s with independent films that sort of reinvigorated the film love of a generation with, like, you know, directors who came out of independent films like Robert Rodriguez or Quentin Tarantino. You know, it's a lot like it is now with games, and you see, you know, new indie developers reinvigorating the market, reinvigorating that sort of passion for games that people have, games as art, you know, through this indie renaissance that's happening right now.
And, you know, I mean, we are talking a lot about the investor like he's some boogeyman. I just wanted to point out that the investors, goodness me, as Dennis probably knows, they play an important role too. It's just that a lot of the times people are so mystified as to why companies are making this decision or putting resources in that part of gaming. And that's more often than not, that would be the reason why.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah,
I just wanted to say,
No,
and that's absolutely true. Actually, Zen, is like, you know, investors are still a key role. You know, it often like snowballs into like hate for investors, and it is an extremely important part of the game industry. You know, and part of the reason I think we're seeing things like annual releases and so on and so forth is because the gaming market is still very much growing internationally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're releasing a Call of Duty every 5 years, that means you suck up the new people into your franchise only every 5 years. If you're releasing it annually, every kid that just got a PlayStation or just got an Xbox is getting the new Call of Duty, not the old one. And they're already interested in that franchise in particular. Like, I think it's a lot of right now, what games want to do is saturate the market, and then we'll see much more refining and much more of, like, you know, similar to what Rob said in the 90s with, like, the indie film. You know, it was like, once the market was really saturated on all these big movies, people started looking for something finer, a better kind of, a better representation. I mean, you can look at TV shows today, and a similar thing has happened. I mean, we had, like 30 different Law and Orders happening, and like thousands of episodes, you know, and then we have a show like Breaking Bad that, you know, you could say is a piece of art, you know what I mean? Like, and that's simply because people are now like, all right, well, I have enough shows to watch, now I want to be picky, you know, and that's kind of the thing is also with games, you know, it's like, if there's only one or two big first-person shooters, those are the ones you're going to play. And if I just got an Xbox, that's where I'll get in, you know? And investors are interested in that also. You know, like, investors do exercise some control, so to speak. And I will tell you very honestly that up until the point where Rob and I started discussing this kind of several years ago, I had no insight into art. At all. I'm just not the type of person that has any insight into art. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. But I had studied business my whole life. And up until that point, I would have told you very honestly that business should have control because business has the data. It has the information on what games sell and what games don't, and so on and so forth. But there is an insight to games. There are games that are not, I don't think artistically beautiful, that are very successful because of a message they have or because of a certain mechanic, you know. And these are the things that, if I'm investing into 4, 5, 6 different companies, if I'm constantly thinking about where my money is going to be moving, quite frankly, I don't have the time to understand whether or not a roguelike is better than a MMO. You know, I just don't. That kind of insight is impossible for me. What I need to see is how many copies you've sold, or, you know, in a case like Blizzard, how many subscriptions you have, you know? Like, it's just, it's sad in a way, but there's no other way to do it. Like, what we really have to hope for is the fact that a lot of these employees at EA that are designing games now take and they save up their money to go and they work on their own, to go and take 6 months off and work on their own, you know, or to do a venture similar to Valve's where you keep the company completely private. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but in general, when you get a bonus, it's like 15% of your pay, you know, if you're at a great company and you do wonderfully that year. Valve's bonuses are sometimes 6 to 8 times your annual pay is what your bonus is.
Jesus.
Yeah. Because it's a
Oh my
privately
God.
owned company. Everybody that works for that company owns a piece of it. They all just work together. That's why they don't have to file paperwork to ever be a public company like Facebook had to once it had a certain amount of investors. It's just a different company structure, and one that quite frankly works well for an art form, which gaming is. Like, yes, there's the mechanics and the technical side, and there is a business to it, clearly, and Valve has the people to do that. But at the end of the day, it is an art form. You're interacting on such a personal level with people, that like the frustrations of just an extra second of waiting, an extra loading screen, they add up, and it causes distaste for a game. But I think the solution doesn't even have to be that kind of extreme. I think the solution has to be how companies like Google and Microsoft have solved their issues with, because like programming is also a very competitive field, where people work for many, many hours, right? But the reason, like Microsoft and Google do really well is because they allow for things like free time. Like imagine if an employee at EA could, in his 20% free time a month, 20% free time a week, even his one day that he can come into work and not have to worry about anything but his own thing, just use the tools at his disposal to build something great, we would see so many new titles. Because at the end of the day, they cost the company almost nothing. Almost nothing, except maybe the better morale of their employees, And that's something they'd be happy to push through to EA, and that's something EA would be happy to embrace. But, on the other hand, it's kind of like we can't expect those companies to be forward-thinking, so to speak. Like, I wish they would be. But a lot of companies simply see it as a waste of time, or see it, like a fad, like giving your employees time and things to do is a fad, And that used to be true when we weren't all educated professionals, But, I mean, a lot of the time, people that enter the workforce now have gone through a college education, Yes, they need a little mentorship, but these are people with ideas, with creativity, with the ability to build great things. And, that's suffocated, and that's sad. And it does have a bad impact on the gaming industry and a lot of industries,
The question is, to bring up a point out of Dennis's points, right, is that, and to all the points really about investors and stuff, is that, the truth is the people with the capital are the ones who are important, and in a lot of ways, I mean, they have to be, they should be, because otherwise games won't be made because you don't have the money. And you look at things like we were bringing up Valve, Blizzard, stuff like that. For a long time, Bethesda was an independent developer, but then I think you have to consider as well a lot of when we're talking about those companies. And we imagine their ideal situation for games and how they make great things. How long ago were they formed? You look at Bethesda, Blizzard, Valve. I mean, these companies have been around for 20 years before gaming was actually popular as a medium, or at least as popular as it is now. My first question would be, is it possible for a company to do that now? And secondly, do they have any incentive to change to that? Because, I mean, the truth is, you look at like a series like Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, right? Yeah, sure. I think actually a better example would be Guitar Hero, right? So Guitar Hero came out, the first one came out, and it was great. It sold like crazy. Then the next one came out like 3 years later or something. And then they had annual releases. And they probably made more money off of Guitar Hero, and subsequently Rock Band, which was a different company, obviously, but, made of the same people, made more money through the annual releases than they ever would have if they decided to, keep the franchise and the brand intact, right? Because there's always going to be a new cool thing, or at least that's the idea, right? Like, you look at like Assassin's Creed right now, they're going to do annual releases because people are still going to buy them, and then when people stop buying them, they'll stop making them. So, I mean, that's bad for us as consumers because, we lose out on a good game franchise, but really, I mean, it makes a lot of money, and people are still buying them, so why would they stop?
Well, I think an important point that Dennis touched on earlier is that there's a lot of focus on getting new generations of kids into your game early, and having games out frequently so that you can get each successive generation of kids. And I think that's, that kind of reflects the fact that games right now largely target, 12 to 18-year-olds roughly, and not so much, they aren't as concerned about people over that age and people who are going to continue playing their game for years and years afterwards. And I think that as the medium matures, we'll see that change a little bit. not necessarily change, but we'll see a segmentation where there are certain game series that try to target kids, but then there are other ones. And we see this to some extent today. Like, I don't think, yeah.
I don't know if they will. And the reason that I say that is because the biggest gaming audience right now is the age group 24 to 35. That's the biggest age group. So who are those people, right? Those are the guys who grew up on Nintendo Entertainment System, subsequently the Super Nintendo, N64, PS1, PS2, those kind of things, right? So they hooked us when we were kids. And what's happening is we have the most inflated part of the market. We're the biggest demographic, right? Our age group. And that's because they hooked us when we were kids. They want that sort of continued ability to do that, otherwise the game industry won't flourish. I think it actually is sort of a big problem that we are the biggest age group, because that kind of says something a little bit dangerous about the longevity of the gaming industry.
I think one of the reasons that companies were pushing towards Facebook and iOS is that there was a potential new market, a potential expansion of their customer base right there. And,
Right.
iOS had to a certain degree succeeding Facebook games I see as probably not going to last for too much longer. But that's exactly, I would say that's the solution that they thought they saw and maybe are still seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely have to agree. I think the only thing that's kind of interesting to consider is, like, if they're making annual releases, and something like Guitar Hero, I think, is a perfect example that you brought up, right? Guitar Hero may or may not have, say they did it every 5 years, it may have become a staple of a living room entertainment set. Everybody had a console with a Guitar Hero, and that's what you did when family was over or something. It may also not have happened, right? So to milk
Right.
it for what it's worth kind of makes sense. But to argue that point even further, to argue the point of milking an IP for what it's worth now and not later, you have to think that if I milk, say, Assassin's Creed now, right? And let's say there's a 4 and that's mildly successful, and there's a 5 and that fails, right? Let's say that that's kind of the progression that happens, and it'll be sad. But now in year 6, I have resources to put into a new IP. That means I have the people to start, investing and developing the new SimCity 6. Or whatever it is.
Right.
And that's kind of what you have to think about also, is like, you look at a company like Valve, and they really haven't released too many games over the duration of them being a gaming company,
Yeah.
They've all been
Yeah.
wildly successful. But, at the pace that it's moving, I mean, imagine that Guitar Hero was just a fad, right? So, like, it was a fad for 3 years. Maybe someone caught up on the 4th year, right? And there were some diehard fans still buying on the 5th year. But if it goes away after that, now a company has a useless IP on its hands, and it has patents for all the technology it needed. It has patents for the little guitars and all those things, So kind of milking it for what it's worth, like, although it's bad, it's bad in the long run, and it feels bad when there's some nostalgia attached to the game that you're playing. On the other hand, it kind of makes sense just because there are so many other games you could be developing. You know what I mean? There are so
Right.
many other games that you can move on to immediately, And especially talking from a company like EA's standpoint, and this is the reason they need a lot of investors, is because EA is famous for buying up these small studios and for buying up all this IP, And they need the money on the spot to buy out things like that, And for
Right.
better or for worse, they've kept a lot of this IP alive. They've kept a lot of these games alive where, we don't know. I mean, maybe, I don't know how long ago Maxis was bought. But maybe Maxis would have failed by now. You know what I mean? And kind of, and SimCity would have just been in the air, or just owned in someone's private IP portfolio just to sue someone else when they made a city management game, Like, it could have ended up, let's say, much worse. But I think, as far as EA's business model goes, they are what they are, And I don't think that you should, and I don't mean you as in you guys, I mean you as in everybody who's looking to buy a game. I don't think you should punish them for their business model. Punish them for a game that's not good, and then they'll understand why it's happening. Like, they're not going to change their business model because of popular demand. That has to do with just the finances of things. That's what makes most money,
Right.
and that's what'll work. And they'll keep doing it until it stops making the most money. You know what I mean? Until they find something better, or, it just becomes a bad way to do business. So, like, if a game is dying out and it's bad, then don't buy it, and then they'll understand.
Here's the sad thing, too. that I've just realized as well is, we're talking about how, we're sad that the gaming industry is so devoid of creative ideas and innovation and stuff. And we're sad at the business model of, annual releases and same old first-person shooter, all that kind of thing. The truth is, despite the fact that SimCity is such a beloved title, it is a niche game. Mm-hmm. And not only that, it is a risk. It's a risk to make SimCity because 1, it's PC exclusive, and 2, it's a grand scale management game. That's not an audience that's super huge. There's a huge audience for SimCity because, everyone has so much nostalgia for it. But, now EA can look at this and say, wow, we should just go back to pumping out more first-person shooters because look at this fucking thing. Look at this debacle. I mean, our CEO stepped down because of this. You look at, like, Old Republic. That failed, too. That wasn't a first-person shooter. I mean, what incentive do they have to take a risk on games, really? When Medal of Honor sells, Medal of Honor sells, make
Medal of Honor actually flopped hard, didn't it?
Maybe it did, but
I think it did.
But I mean, like
Battlefield sells, things like that.
You say
things
take
that
a risk, but why take a risk and half-ass the risk? Is what I think is what we're seeing. I mean, the Old Republic and SimCity, there's just
they didn't half-ass the risk. I mean, you could look at it as just testing the market, as in saying, all right, let's release SimCity 5. No, do it bare bones, right? We just want to retexture the buildings. I don't care about AI, all that junk. Leave it the same. The features are too hard to port, take them out. Let's give them a bare bones thing. Let's sell a couple of deluxe packages for the diehard fans that are definitely going to buy it anyway. That's how we'll seed those people out, right? Those people bought all the extra packs and all the extra buildings because they just love SimCity. We want to know who are the people that are just going to buy a city management game. And those people are just going to buy the $60 copy. They're not going to buy the $80 or the $90, whatever it is, right? So they've seeded those people out, and if they see that there's enough people, then yes, there will be a next SimCity. And more than likely, there will be people, it'll have kind of a better development and all those things and more features. But, I mean, they're just testing the market. They're putting as little as they can to see whether or not there's even an audience for this game. Business doesn't make assumptions ever, I don't think. It tries to just push away risk. Kind of the greater the risk, the less kind of the worse it is for them. And it's not a company's like EA's role to be taking risks in the market. It's not. They have too many investors tied up into what they're doing, and they provide too stable a salary to the people who work for them. If EA's was the type of company that said, you know what, you're a developer on this game, you don't get paid anything until the game comes out, and when it comes out, you can have 1% of the sales, right? Along with the 60 other people, they all get 1%, we keep 40%, right? Then they could develop whatever the hell they wanted because those people would just earn off the sales of the games, but yeah, it would be like book publishers, right? The writer writes the book and then book publisher takes a cut for the distribution. And it could work like that. But because they provide stable salaries and all those things, they need stable money coming in, And the fact that, our opinions are generally flimsy on things like games. Like, I could really like a game today and really not like it tomorrow, Like, I played Skyrim for 120 hours over the course of maybe a week. And I haven't picked it up since. And you know what? They came out with an expansion pack that I heard was pretty cool, but didn't change enough for me in the game, and I was like, I'm not picking it up, It doesn't mean it's a bad game. I'm sure it's a great game. I'm sure the expansion pack was awesome, and it would have been even more fun had I been playing it the first time. But, those are things that are difficult for a business to track. I mean, you got to think there's maybe, 8, 10, 20, 30 people responsible for keeping track of little things, for answering on their Twitter accounts and for answering on their Facebook page and really understanding what the public wants or doesn't want. It's not, they're not like a small indie developer that, you can pick up an email and you send the email and that every guy that's there will know what's in your email if you have something bad or something good to say because they feel a sense of pride, The work is much more detached and it works for annual releases of relatively, unchanging games, like more features and stuff, but the game's the same, just like Modern Warfare. All of those games have been more or less the same game over and over and over again. Yeah, there's new features and it's fun, but it's the same game, and that works for paying people that way. I don't know. I think so. So
yeah,
I like EA deserves all the bad publicity that they got for doing the wrong thing, but I think they would have drawn less bad publicity if something like Bad Company servers had crashed, or some other game that failed for them servers had crashed. The reason they drew that much bad publicity was because there really was a market for SimCity. I thought it was silly. I was on Reddit, and every day for 2 weeks before it came out, on the front page was SimCity. Somebody complaining about it, yes. Somebody saying how they're not going to buy it. But the fact of the matter is, that's free advertising. That's something I saw every day for 2 weeks about SimCity. That kept it fresh in my mind. And that meant that there's a market for it. People do want to discuss it, What's his name said it? Like Marilyn Manson said, any publicity is good publicity. So
yeah, for sure. It was such a, everybody loved to talk about how shitty it was that EA had ruined SimCity and et cetera, because everybody wanted to buy SimCity.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think everybody wanted the next SimCity to be good, so it was crushing for it to be bad.
Yeah. Or at least not the game that they were expecting, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I think it's unequivocally bad to sell a game that doesn't work for a week.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's that, but I think even just design wise,
yeah. Now we're getting into that. Now that people have played it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, even if the servers worked, I'd still have the same problems. I actually never had any server issues myself either. But even if the game worked, absolutely, I don't think we would get as many. Like people wouldn't have beloved it anyway, because it's not as fun as older SimCities because of the restriction that you place on the player. And again, that's design. That's Max's side. That's not even just EA.
I don't think it's necessarily totally Max's fault. I have a feeling EA had a lot of input on what decisions Max's should make to try to make SimCity have more appeal, and they messed it up.
Yeah, I mean, it can be that, but again, that's the kind of thing that's conjecture, and we can't really know.
I don't know, the sort of things they did, like the always online shit, and then weekly justifying the always online DRM with the multiplayer. That screams EA interfering to me.
Well, I don't think it was. What I heard, I don't know if this is true, and I don't think anyone would know, is that EA kind of gutted the company once it was bought, and just filled it with a bunch of employees from EA or more.
Right.
Yeah. So. Kind of direct EA interference. It wasn't really like there was a game company who was enslaved and forced to do all these things. I think it was, a bunch of hired people who were doing these things already.
Yeah,
I mean, part of EA.
I think that's probably very true, because I mean, did you ever hear for 1 second Will Wright's name mentioned at all in
No.
with SimCity 5? Never.
Nope.
Never. I mean, and that's his baby, right? I mean, The Sims, SimCity, his last actual project was Spore, where his name was attached. Will Wright completely is not even a part of that anymore. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good point as well. That's sort of what EA does, too, though. I mean, and it makes sense, too. Like very few times do you have something where a publisher is going to buy up a studio and then keep everyone in place. I mean, any company, right? I mean, I don't think that even ever really happens when a company buys another company. The one example that I can know of is Respawn Entertainment, which are the old Infinity Ward guys who made, up until Modern Warfare 2, some of the Call of Duty games, and the guys who made the game and then got fucked over by Activision. And I'm talking about Jason West and Vince Zampella. I always get them confused. It could be Vince West and Jason Zampella. I don't know. But they left the company. All of the major players at Infinity Ward left the company in the subsequent month. And then they formed Respawn Entertainment, signed with EA, and EA said publicly, and it was in their contract with Jason West and Vince Zampella, that you guys can do whatever you want. Make whatever you want. Do whatever you want to do. We have no input whatsoever. They gave them full creative control. But I mean, that's because they made Modern Warfare, which completely revolutionized, shooters.
First-person shooters, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean so it's very rare to get that kind of a deal, I think. And I would imagine, I guess, for good reason too. I mean, you could look at developers doing that over time, like naturally making shittier games, like even without any sort of publisher input. So it's kind of, it's a sad situation, but what can you really say about the market? The truth is, it's sad because who's gonna make a SimCity, without a lot of money, one that's that pretty as SimCity 5? No one really.
Right.
It requires a lot of capital. And, you need return on investment. That's the truth. And what they did was they made a game that they thought would be for the widest audience. So.
Yeah, I mean, but part of the good thing about the free market, right, is like after I played The Sims for that many hours, the only thing I could think about was how would I make a better Sims game, And I sat down and I wrote a bunch of ideas. Now, to say the truth, that, I could probably pull some money out of my pocket and fund someone else to do it because I have no idea what I'm doing, right? But someone who's sitting at home who just played SimCity is saying, you know what, there's probably a bunch of people just like me who want to play a SimCity where there are individualized stories, and who want to play SimCity where there are things to do when I play at a slower pace, and who want to play SimCity alone, and not with a group of friends, but maybe have that option, and some small developer will, go on and try to do something like that, or maybe not a very small developer, obviously, but, a group of people will go and try to work on something like that, and maybe we'll hear, some upcoming kind of, we'll call it a knockoff of SimCity, but if it improves on what SimCity does, that'll become the new great IP, So that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always that possibility. I was just looking at EA Maxis, and EA Maxis is just one of the labels that's just responsible for the Sims series, and they're just like, it's just one big on its own studio. That's just doing that. So like there are plenty of people there. Obviously, there are plenty of people there.
Yeah.
Now, don't forget, or don't remember, that, The Sims has also just come out with an enormous amount of iOS games and an enormous amount of Android games that are all very, very pretty successful as far as microtransactions goes and as far as people playing. And one of them even recently went free to play, which is great. But so they probably had a lot on their plate. They weren't just making SimCity, So I think I stand by what I said earlier. It's just they're testing the market for a game like this, After 10 years, tastes change. They don't know if everyone in the world is playing Tropico now, and doesn't even want to hear about SimCity. So, I mean, they checked it out and, maybe we'll see some improvements. I mean, obviously they sent me this apology letter, and it very clearly said, we messed up, It said that in plain text. Yeah. It said, we messed up. Here's a free game. And I respect that. I mean, they're fixing their PR problem, and it sucks that they messed up. But, I mean, I got a free game, And I didn't even, personally, I didn't even have a server issue. I wasn't one of the first guys that bought it. It wasn't anything like that. I didn't even have an issue with the game at all. I didn't have any problems. So, I mean, they're trying to work into something more correct and more proper. I just think that I don't know, the CEO resigning, I think it's a good thing for the company. It's always a good thing to shake up management, because people get comfortable at the end of the day. People get comfortable in their positions and they stop trying to kind of impress the people that they're supposed to impress. They stop trying to kind of push the boundary. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, my question is, the next CEO, right, or any CEO, say like let's look at like Mike Morhaime at Blizzard, right? Are they now finally, are they gonna have the foresight to say launch is important? Because we've seen the heads roll for this kind of thing over and over and over again, and not just the online DRM. Like, if the online DRM was, like, because you look at the reviews, right, the preview codes that people got, at like, Polygon's original review for SimCity was 9.0, and then it was reassessed to be a 4.0 just because you can't play it. Now, even if online DRM was the only problem, but people could play it fine on day one, would this whole debacle have taken place? Yes, people
No.
would have had a sour taste in their mouth over it being online DRM, and perhaps people wouldn't be as interested in the mechanics like myself after putting in 20 plus hours. But will you now have the foresight as a game developer and a publisher to say, okay, we're going to go the online DRM route because it stops piracy? It does. And
Yeah, it's not going to stop it with SimCity. They have to do it a little better than that.
Right, but I think SimCity is not going to be pirated just because it sucks, but
Wait, you're kidding. People are going to pirate the shit out of that game.
Yeah. But the thing is, are they going to have the foresight to have enough servers on day one? Is that a thing that's going to happen? Like, we can look at, say, Bethesda's Elder Scrolls MMO. Are they going to have the foresight to not have any wait time on the servers? Yes, it will cost you more money. But perhaps you should just take $20 million out of your budget and say, these are the extra servers that we're going to pay for a month before. Because we talked about this actually off podcast, right? Like, the reason that all these server issues happen, like Diablo 3, SimCity, is because when you launch a game, you're going to have a lot more people, probably upwards of 60% more people playing on launch than you will 3 months down the line, 1 month down the line. So
even a week down the line.
Right. So generally the idea is you buy enough servers that you expect people to play into the future, not on launch. But the truth is, then you have these horrible, horrible launch events, and, Blizzard's name gets tarnished over Diablo 3. Maxis and EA get tarnished, lose a CEO over SimCity. Are you now going to have the foresight to say, okay, this is just an expense that we have to consider? Or are you just going to say, well, it's a lot of money that we don't have to spend, and people are still going to buy the game anyway?
I think,
who knows?
I think it'll be at least a couple of years until we see smooth launches. And the reason being is not because the companies don't want to spend time for servers or money for servers. It's because there aren't as many big game launches. Think about all the games that have launched this year, right? 2 out of all those games have had that problem because of online DRM and because they were online games, but only 2 have had that problem, right? Now imagine that problem starts coming up more and more often, Well,
that's the issue, though. Like, the next online DRM game that comes out is going to look at the last online-only DRM game that came out, SimCity, and be like, this was a huge mistake. Should we replicate that? Like, it doesn't matter that there aren't a lot of them.
No, right,
because
exactly.
there aren't a lot of online DRM launches either.
That's absolutely true. The way I'm leading this towards is, think about the server companies, right? Think about, I'm as a server company, I'm not gonna want to sell you first enough servers for all your players and then less servers, because I still have to put in more servers. You know what I mean? I still have to expand capacity, and now I'm over capacity. Yeah, you're happy, but I've got all these servers that I have nothing to do with that are just a drain on my resources constantly because I didn't build them out of pocket. I clearly used the money you gave me and borrowed some more to put up the servers, so that I'm at capacity. Or at least close enough to being at capacity. Now think about if there's a big game launch every month, right? Then a server company that's only does launches could pop up, right? A server company like mine, for example, right? I open a server company and I have an enormous amount of servers that's just for game launches. Yes, I charge a lot more, but they're only 1-month contracts and I can expect to hold 6 million people, 10 million people, 20 million people simultaneously, right? Once your 1 month is up, you know what your regular pace of playing is, and you can go sign a contract with some other server company. I'm not responsible for that. I'm only responsible for those big jumps and being able to sustain that. When there's enough demand for that, I think it'll pop up, but it will have to require something of a more regular interval with these game
that sort of
launches.
thing. That would require most games being always online DRM.
No, which is the way it's heading anyway. Which is the way
and
it's heading
gonna
anyway.
be that way. Yeah. There is no incentive to run a single player game, really, money wise.
Well, I mean, there's all the people who don't have reliable internet connections, for one thing.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. I mean, they already spent their money. It doesn't matter. And the truth is, right?
Well,
like,
they won't
here's
spend
the
their
long
money if
term.
they...
here's the long-term thing. Well, I don't have a reliable internet connection, but I bought SimCity.
Nah,
So
you're
wanna play
nothing
SimCity.
compared to some people out in the middle of nowhere with satellite internet that's out half the time.
That's true.
Yeah, that's
but-
true. But I mean, if they want to play the game, they're gonna play the game. I mean, like here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? Is that what you create with online-only DRM is not only is it combating piracy, right? Because Diablo 3 hasn't been pirated. It can't be. So not only are you combating piracy, but you're also creating artificial scarcity, right? Because artificial scarcity is obviously you're creating a scarcity for a resource that isn't scarce, right? So like you see like this happened in the furniture markets, right? Like everybody always says, well, they don't make them like they used to, and to the large degree they totally don't. I'm sitting on a 100-year-old chair right now. I don't think you would I don't think you could buy a chair from IKEA that'll last 5 years. And there's a good reason for that, because how are they going to make money if you're going to buy a chair and never have to buy a chair for the rest of your life, right? So you make it shittier so that it has artificial scarcity. So you have to go back and buy more. This actually happened with Kindle and libraries and stuff and electronic books. Is book companies did not like Kindles and stuff because you have scarcity in books. Books eventually go bad. They break and you have to buy a new one, a new copy of your favorite book. So what they started doing is they added in a timer, right, where they sell it to libraries, and it would be a timer of how long you get the license for the book for, and then it deletes itself from your thing, and there's no way to get it back. So what online DRM does as well is this creates artificial scarcity. Because what happens in 5 years when EA says, we're not going to support the SimCity servers anymore? People can't play it. The $60 investment that you've made is no longer there, but guess what? SimCity 6 is out. You can buy that. So, I mean, there's really no incentive to go single player, really. I mean, other than pleasing the consumer, and the consumer doesn't matter if they're still spending their money anyway.
Right.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
So,
Although I will say that I now, like, as a very recent kind of thought with myself, I fully support always online DRM. I fully support it. I hope it's in every single game ever. And you know why? Because then we'll have reliable internet. That's
maybe,
it.
yeah.
That's it. Because
That's
then
it.
we'll have reliable internet. Because then the uproar won't be, oh no, it's online DRM. The uproar will be, give us reliable internet. And the only next step
Right.
after that is give us better internet speeds. And you know what? And if it takes always online DRM, fine. Fine. But all those
it
people
wouldn't be the
that
first time.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say it wouldn't be the first time that the gaming industry has moved technology forward.
Yeah, it's true.
Because of that.
It's. I mean, look
for
at
sure.
computers.
Gaming industry.
Look at
Yeah,
computers. Why do games like Crisis
there's-
3 even come out? Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a benchmark.
Also, why
I
would
do not need this 2 gig video card to run Microsoft Word. I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't at all.
Yeah.
Like, if Microsoft Word can do, I can run a billion windows of Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Yep.
never gonna need that,
True.
you know? But it's just for
Yeah.
the games.
Yeah, it's all about the games.
Yeah, and if online DRM does that, and if we eventually get things like streaming games where I don't have to keep them on a hard drive, where I can take them on a small laptop, where I can take them on the go, where I have 3G service available almost everywhere, where I have Wi-Fi available almost everywhere, if that's the inevitable way to kind of, meet the business demand and the consumer demand, then I'm much happier with that than I am with stagnation, with having shitty internet and games that don't push the boundary, So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spyro someone in the chat makes a good point that it's much easier to do something or get mad at a game company than it is than an internet company, because if you get mad at the game company, I'm not going to buy your game. You can't say that about an internet company because it's so monopolized. You can't just say, oh, well, I'm not going to have internet.
No.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's-
that's true.
and
But you
that's
don't have to get
America
mad
too,
at them. You just have to say, I want more reliable internet, and Google Fiber will come and give you more reliable internet, and then you don't have to get mad at someone else. You just switch to someone else. That's all. It'll create
Yeah,
even
that's what we
more
need.
demand for a reliable connection, which is already out
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it
The
won't
demand
be.
is
I mean,
already
like.
really high.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, like, parents in a lot of these places. I was watching something on TV where kids had to go to McDonald's to do online homework for their school. They don't have reliable internet at home, had to go to McDonald's to do online homework. Those parents aren't going to get reliable internet connections for their kids. They're not. And it's not going to happen whether or not there's reliable internet there. A lot of them simply don't have the financial means to do so. And that's understandable. That happens all over the world, right? But think about when kids ask their parents for something ridiculous, like $60 for a game. You know, when feeding a family for a week costs about $60, right? When kids start demanding reliable internet connections for their entertainment, it'll become more of a priority for parents also. Right now, my mom could still be on dial-up and she wouldn't care. She would browse the internet at the same speed because she types 3 words per minute. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right, yeah.
it's not any faster for her. For me, I get stuck at a loading screen and I'm hitting my computer and restarting it because I know something is a little bit wrong. You know what I mean? And that's a loading screen for like 1 second. I had a 1080p stream lag out for like 30 seconds and I was like, you know what? I'm done. And I closed it. But that's because I use it quickly. I want it on demand. And when kids start demanding more reliable service so that they can play their games, I mean, think about how much more reliable service has been bought or requested just because of online games like Modern Warfare on the PlayStation 3. I mean, I'm sure people have gotten more reliable connections just to play that game because it creates a demand for them. You know what I mean? A lot of people that have never played games before, but that were like, you know what, this is a pretty popular game. Let me check this out. And they did it. So look, I think it's a good opportunity, if nothing else. And we're not going to stop the gaming industry from going online DRM, because people pirate games. They do. Yeah. People pirate games, and it may be a convenience issue. It may be a price point issue. It may be all these issues. But we'll figure that out once we have the online DRM, because then when a game doesn't sell, you can't say, well, it's because everyone pirated. Then you have to look at your game and say, all right, what did we do wrong? And what can we fix to make sure it sells next time? That excuse disappears.
I will say I don't think always online by itself is going to solve piracy, and here's why. Rob always likes to bring up Diablo 3 is like an unpiratable game, but it's unpiratable for the same reason that MMOs can't be pirated. Diablo 3 is an intrinsically multiplayer game tied into like an economy of its own, and it has its auction house and everything. But if you look at SimCity has already been cracked to work offline.
So before you go into this tangent, I have to tell you I actually have to go.
Oh, okay.
It's 7:45, So yeah, no problem. Don't end the podcast or anything. Just keep going. I'll probably just end my recording and send it to you later.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Zen.
Okay, right, but this was really fun, though.
Everybody say goodbye to Zen in the chat.
All right, bye, guys. See you in a bit.
Bye, Zen.
See you, Zen.
Bye, Zen.
By the way, Zen, are you still there?
Yes.
Plug your channel.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Channel is Zen and Cyrene. Right now, I just finished playing through Kentucky Route Zero, which is an awesome game. Which, depending on how the other acts go, will probably be my game of the year if it keeps up the quality. Or not the game of the year, maybe, but maybe close to the game of the year. And after that, I don't know what I'm going to be doing exactly. I am working on something that might be exciting and might involve more Cyrene if I can, but we'll see if that pans out or not.
Sounds intriguing.
Ooh. Okay.
Ooh.
All right.
I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Adios. Okay. So to that point that you just made, though, Green, there's a difference because SimCity is always online DRM in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
So the different way is that none of the calculations are done server side.
Yeah.
Right? For SimCity. So it's not really a true online-only DRM like Diablo 3 is, because on Diablo 3, it's all server-side calculation. So it's all running into the Blizzard server. SimCity does not have that same kind of framework. So
do you have an example of a non-MMO, like a true single-player game that is also true online-only DRM?
Well, would you consider SimCity then a true single-player game by its function and its mechanics?
Yes.
Right now. Well, then it's actually as multiplayer as Diablo 3. You can play Diablo 3 entirely through a single-player experience.
Right, but the difference is all of your items and everything are regulated by the server because they need to keep the economy under control and make sure people can't just go offline, hack their game, get a bunch of items that they shouldn't have, and then sell them for real money.
Right, and that's what I'm
That's
saying.
the
Is that
issue.
it's a difference
Yeah.
between the type of DRM. It's the difference
Yeah,
that
exactly.
SimCity doesn't do server side calculations. If they did, then it would be unpiratable.
Yeah, absolutely. But people aren't doing that yet. Companies aren't doing that yet, and I think that's because it's expensive to have servers that are actually, in addition to just logging you in like SimCity servers do and being in charge of your save files. Sometimes, Diablo is they have like servers, MMO style servers running everything for you, and that's an
Right.
expensive difference between that and the SimCity model. Like,
Right.
I'm sure Diablo servers cost way more per connection just because of how much more they have to do. So when are companies going to be willing to do that? When are they going to think that that's the money they save through piracy is going to be worth that alone? I don't know. They don't seem to think it yet.
Yeah.
I honestly think that piracy is I think I'm really falling towards what Dennis was saying, is that piracy right now is a scapegoat for game
It absolutely
developers
is.
to say like, oh, we didn't sell well because of piracy, because the people pirated our game. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, that's
And
what they tell their
perhaps
investors.
If it's unpiratable, right? But perhaps if it is unpiratable, then they can say, okay, this didn't sell for what reason. But see, the thing is, then we could even lead to an even darker place in video games where games are only first-person shooters more than they are now, because it's like, oh, it didn't sell because it's not a first-person shooter, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying anything about what should be. I'm just saying that I don't think your like near future of games are unpiratable is at all likely.
No, you're right.
well,
I don't
because
think
it
it's
doesn't-
likely. I mean, servers will get cheaper.
Yeah,
True enough. Yeah.
So like
because more
with
server
time,
companies are going to
maybe
come
that's
into
the future.
effect
But
with
maybe
that.
that's not even a good solution. You know what I mean? Like CD keys were
Oh,
a
it's definitely
reasonable
not.
solution. Maybe there's a solution like that. Like there's like I'm sure there's other ways around it, but the fact of the matter is that piracy really does hurt the industry, and
Oh, for
they
sure.
haven't found a way around it. They really haven't. Like Steam does a great
Yeah.
job of
Yeah.
going around it. That's
But-
what I like to do, Like I like to buy a
Yeah.
game on Steam now because I have it everywhere I go. I have it on all my computers. I don't have to worry about save
Right.
files, and it's easy to do. But
Well,
a lot
but
of
see,
people
that's the
pirate,
thing, is
you
that
know.
you're making, but like that's the thing, right? Is that Steam solved piracy on PC for at least itself because it offered a cheap and convenient alternative.
Mhm.
But then you have to look at a company like EA, right, who makes Origin. The reason that they made Origin is because Steam has created a middleman. They are the middleman. Valve is now the middleman. And EA doesn't want to be beholden to Steam and also their investors, So just like they were beholden to the distribution companies that they had to be beholden to before.
Yeah,
Because they
EA's in
beholden
this
over and over
awkward
again.
position where they don't want to be beholden to Steam, but they also don't want to be bothered to do all of the people pleasing that Steam does. Be as convenient and nice and awesome as Steam. They want to have their shitty, Steam knockoff and basically have their cake and eat it too. And it's not working.
Right.
People don't
but-
like Origin.
But the truth is that like they have no reason to spend more money on putting their games on Steam. Besides, like they can make their own platform, and that's
I'm sure they would sell better.
And the truth is also, yeah, they would totally sell more. But the thing is that I don't think that piracy hurts the gaming industry as much as it's made out to hurt the gaming industry. Sure, there are copies that aren't sold there, but I think it hurts the gaming industry.
As a
this is
scapegoat
maybe
rather than as a
controversial.
thing.
Well, I think it hurts the gaming industry in the right way, is what I want to say. Which is controversial, but hear me out. If people pirated Aliens Colonial Marines, that game would have bombed sales-wise. It still did, to a degree, I think. I mean, I think it still sold a buttload of copies, and there was a bunch of people pissed off. Yeah,
Sold a lot of
But-
pre-orders.
right. But if people pirated that game before they bought it, then perhaps it wouldn't have. Then it would have had that it wouldn't have sold, and it would have been a failure for the games industry economically, right? So it hurts that company because they don't sell as well.
Yeah, but they
it's
made a
shitty
shitty game. They deserve
exactly. Right.
it. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people pirate
Yeah, I
games
think
and then
the
buy them.
The thing is,
that's the thing that
it
happens.
fills the same
I've
void
heard
as
that in the
demos
comments for
should
Binding of
fill,
Isaac.
used to fill.
A lot of people pirated
And
the Binding of
demos
Isaac and
need
were like,
to
"Wow,
come
I want
back
this update.
somehow.
And I really like
and
this
until
developer."
then, oh shit, Rob's gone.
Yeah, he just dropped.
That sucks.
I mean, the truth I think is like with piracy at least, right? I think it does the industry some favors also, right? It really does. Like I pirated The Binding of Isaac. I did. And then I bought it. I bought it about a month later. I ended up going out and actually, like, not going out, I mean, getting into Steam and buying it.
The good old Steam store.
Going out to
Leaving
the
your
Steam
house.
store, gonna pick up some cupcakes and Binding of Isaac. And, I got it. And I got it because I enjoyed the game and because I wanted the updates, right? They kept maintaining the game, they kept making it better, so I wanted the updates, so I got the game. The thing is, however, there have been plenty of games that I've pirated and that I've never bought. Even some games that I've played. And,
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
like, yes, I was younger at the time and I wasn't making any money and, like, no one could pay for my games in my family, but the fact of the matter is, I would go to my friends in school and I'd be like, "Hey, did you play this game, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit? It's the best. It's an amazing game."
Yeah, totally.
And then they would buy it. So it still generated a
comes
sale
down to-
because it was a good game. You know, like, here, I'll tell you, when I was very young, pirated games weren't pirated games like, you know, you download online because everyone had like 56K. There was a Russian
Yeah.
store that I used to go to in Brooklyn that sold bootleg CDs. I'd buy bootleg. I still have a
Yep.
bootleg CD with like Half-Life and like 5 other games on there. One of them was like Doom, like just 5 games on there that you could just install, and it was in a foreign language that's not Russian. It was some language, but I didn't care. It was a shooting game. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, you know, I was a little kid. I wasn't gonna read the game. It wasn't a reading game. It was a playing game.
yeah,
you know?
totally.
But like, it's gonna stick around, I think, and it's gonna keep happening one way or another. But I don't know. It's a hit and miss market. It is. It's not something stable. You're not making bread. You're not making ketchup. You're not making demolition services. You're not doing construction services. You know what I mean? It's the type of market that if it catches on with the audience of the day, then it catches on. And if it doesn't, and it doesn't. What was like Ed McMillan's story? Like he made like 28 games that completely failed, and then he made a
for
game
sure,
that
yeah.
was great. You know,
Yeah.
like he used to make games for Newgrounds and all these things, and those games were complete failures. And then he made a game that did really, really good, and you know, there it is. And like, you know, any games he makes afterwards, right? He's making a new game soon. They're gonna do good because now they carry his name, you know. So like, we trust him to make good games. But the fact of the matter is, like, EA can't do that. Neither can Blizzard. Blizzard can't go out and make 30 games, you know, and then have the 31st one be successful. They can't, because by the time they make 6 games, they're done. They're out of money. People don't want to give them
Yeah.
anything anymore, you know, and that's...
Yeah, and that's why independent games are so great too, because you don't spend a ton of money on them. You can make them while you have a different job. Even
Mhm.
you can, you know, it gives people the opportunity to experiment with things, make games, find new ways to resonate with the audience that isn't just Call of Duty again.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and it creates a place for expression and new things and interesting things in the gaming market.
Absolutely true. And I think that's a good thing, man. I think like the indie game market is definitely a good thing, you know. And a part of the reason it's so good is because unlike film and unlike music, all of the tools you need to create a game are at your disposal. They really are. Like, I can't pick up a $15,000 camera and shoot a movie. I can shoot a movie with
Yeah.
my iPhone, and that's great, but no one's going to watch that movie. You know what I mean? But, you know, I also can't get, like, studio recording equipment in my house. I probably can. I definitely can't afford it, though. You know? But to do something like programming, I can do at home. Or I can do it, you know, at a small office. But all I really need is a computer to do it. And that makes it kind of, you know, that makes sure that there's always going to be a steady stream of indie games, you know. And with Humble,
Yeah.
Indie Bundle, and all these, like, different distribution centers, like, it's just getting easier and easier. You know, Steam Greenlight is making it easier. Did you hear, by the way, that they're changing that?
Oh, what are they doing to it now?
Well, they said that, like, I think, what's-his-face, Gabe Newell came out and said, he admitted that he was like, look, Steam Greenlight was a great experiment, and we're happy we did it. but he's like, it's created a bottleneck.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not allowing for good things to surface all the time whenever they need to surface. It's forcing one little thing to pop up. You know what I mean? And he's like, then it has to go through our process, and it just delays the whole thing. And he's like, you know, we're seriously considering how we're going to restructure it. And it was a good experiment, you know. And I think a part of it is going to be based around that new like community feature that they just replaced, you know, where you can see what your friends are doing or whatever. And I think it'll be, I don't know. How do you think you would do it, Green? Or Austin? How do you think you would do it?
Do you want to go ahead, Austin? Or
You know, it's complicated because, you know, you're gonna ask the community what they want, and you're gonna ask a lot of people who don't really know what they want.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get games like Block Adventure Extreme 2.
Yeah.
Greenlit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the tyranny of the majority, right? It's not as good as like it's the same problem with it, because that was the main thing, right? Before Greenlight. By the way, I'm back from the internet outage.
Hey.
But because that's the thing, right? Is like people were mad at Steam. It's like, oh, it sucks because they have the reins and there's a process that they have to go through, and some games get in and some games don't, and it's messed up. So let the community do it. Now you have the tyranny of the majority, and what do you have? Is like, oh, the top greenlit games are 3 or 4 Minecraft clones. Yeah.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
so like, there's no easy solution. I mean, I think a lot of it, if Steam can solve it and make it a perfect system, then they will be doing more than fixing Steam. They will also be fixing like government and stuff too.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Like, you know, I don't think there's a perfect solution, but
I think it could be made a lot better though.
Yeah, no, totally. I agree. Yeah.
I think bring back a committee of people Valve trusts to look at games and bring them in that way. Don't make Greenlight the only way to submit your game. Anybody can submit a game for review by Steam to get onto Steam. B, on Greenlight, for like games that might not have come to their attention through their committee of people who like where the community would still love it, require people on Greenlight to produce proof that their game exists. Preferably in terms of a free playable demo that everybody can play before voting for it. Because right now, there's a whole lot of like, you know, like you said, there's a bunch of Minecraft clones. And what are those Minecraft clones? You look at the Greenlight page and it's like, look, here's a picture of a world made of squares where you cut trees and stuff. And that's all they have. They have a picture and a description of Minecraft. And they're like, we want to make this game. And everybody's like, this is the greatest idea of all time, and votes it up. If there was something playable, I think that would be headed off to a large extent. And other things would be discovered more easily as well. Because it's really hard to look at a picture of a game and even a video of a game sometimes and be able to say, this is something I'm willing to pay for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think really the truth is I think the middlemen between the consumer and the seller, being the game developer, right, is oftentimes us. And I mean us in the podcast right now, us who make videos on the game, and obviously, totally. I mean more specifically like guys like Total Biscuit or Northern Lion who are more...
Absolutely.
You know, well, but I think really that is sort of the solution, is that media needs to take a role. And perhaps some sort of integration with that. I know that they did start to do that with Steam Community, because like I actually used to get a lot of views through Steam because I used to put my FTL videos onto the Steam Community page that had the videos and stuff. And if you look at the community page for each game, it's actually pretty cool. There's a bunch of there's like news articles and images that people uploaded, like a Reddit kind of style thing, and like parts of Let's Plays and stuff like that. And I think that could be the potential out, maybe, of reviewers, you know, looks at the game. I mean, we're seeing more of those kind of channels and stuff crop up in YouTube and all that, so that exists as well. But I mean, I think Steam doesn't have the time to look at all those things, and it's I think on the media to really emphasize that those kind of titles that aren't really shown
totally
necessarily.
Here's a great example of that, actually. Do you guys remember Delver's Drop's Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Delver's Drop, it had been on Kickstarter for a while, like I think over a month, and it had gotten about half of what they wanted to kickstart it. And then at that point, they released a press-only like alpha of the game. It's only for press, just so that, and it was like barely anything, just a little bit of showing off the gameplay and the graphics and the
Right.
style of the game. Gave it out to press. People made a bunch of YouTube videos about it, and suddenly over the weekend, they finished funding the game. You know, and what they had earned in a month, they earned in 3 days.
Yeah. Right.
And that's how it works, man. If you advertise your game that way, if you put out something playable and have a link to your Greenlight page, that's how you can successfully get funded. But if you have nothing playable, if you just have a picture or something, then you're never going to be successful. And the problem is all of those Greenlight pages like that with nothing playable on them clog it up, make it impossible to find the ones that do have something interesting to show. So the press, like us, I don't want to sort through Greenlight. No desire at all to go look at Greenlight because there's so much bullshit there that I can't find anything interesting to highlight there. I have to go elsewhere and then look at their link to their Greenlight page and then be like, oh, this is neat, and then link to that on my video. But if Greenlight was a better way by itself to find these potential games, then the media would have such an easier time integrating with Greenlight, and that would fix the issue largely.
Yeah, perhaps a better tagging system, a better filtering system would help as well.
For sure.
You know, that would be good. An easier way to search out just the kind of game that you want in Greenlight.
But it's not even the kind of game, it's the level of presentation that I want.
Quality, yeah,
I can't make a video on like a paragraph about a Minecraft clone. I can't.
Right.
And I don't want to. I want to make a video about a game that exists that I can tell you about.
Yeah, well, I have actually. I used to do
Well,
the series
fuck you.
Indie Spotlight. Yeah, Indie Spotlight was just a bunch of like videos on the game and stuff, which is good. But yeah, it is very difficult to find any sort of like when I was doing Indie Spotlight, I had that same kind of problem with like games that just didn't have any information out there about it, that I had to like scour for hours, like interviews, get any tidbits that I could, any like kind of pictures and videos that they possibly put out. Like they're missing out on the hype train, man, because could have got more users interested. But yeah, it's the same.
You make your game easy to cover and people will cover it.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know.
This is the most we've actually talked about games on this podcast before.
It's a lot of talking about games, yeah.
So
it's a lot of industry talk too. It's not specific games. We're talking about broader topics. Sorry, go ahead, Dennis.
We're talking about why there are no games to talk about.
yeah, I have a question about Greenlight. So like with Greenlight, is it like 3,000 games and you're in? I mean 3,000 likes and you're in or whatever?
I think it's way more like 10,000, 50,000.
Well, right, but there's
It's
just a threshold and then you're in?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, there's a threshold.
Right, so what if that changes?
And make it like what? Like a
What if it's
dislike
10,000
ratio kind of thing, or
What if it's 10,000 likes and you're in the competition to win for the month, and then the person for the month that draws the most attention and the most likes wins?
Well, that's just less games coming out, and it still keeps the problem of it's
right,
probably
it's
a
less
Slender
games,
clone or a-
but it does. Think about it this way: if I just need 10,000 likes, right? I don't need an enormous amount of exposure to get to 10,000 likes. I mean, 10,000 people
You're
go
right,
look at
you're
the Greenlight page all the time. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And those people are the people voting for the Minecraft clones, right? But now, say that it's competitive like Kickstarter, right? Where it's not like, only one Kickstarter project makes it, but you need to draw a lot of attention to it, Then the games that can really draw the most attention through chat, like the reason I'm thinking about this is because I'm thinking like, like your channel, like Rob's channel, like those channels draw attention to certain games. If they have to rely on the media to draw a much larger amount of attention, then kind of there'll be that natural filter,
Yeah, for sure.
But see, the problem too is like I think that is a system that could work, but I think that's the kind of thing that Greenlight like was attempting to solve, not attempting to do, because that's the thing is that like they don't want to get the games that get the attention already, because it's hard to do the games that aren't like already wildly popular to cover, right? I mean, like there are very few channels that do that. Like you got guys, very smaller channels who I'm gonna plug right now. Like Pixel Pirate does that on games that aren't really known. And then a bigger channel like Rock Lee Smile, he does games that just he just finds shit, like and does like a bunch of like a bunch of games that a lot of people don't cover because they just don't have the time because there's so many indie games being made, and some games without any coverage at all. So like it's not necessarily I think that they care about the exposure and the money. It's that they want to be able to uncover gems. And that wouldn't really solve that problem as uncovering gems, I think. I think one of the main problems with Greenlight is that like one of the main problems is that you are a big old butt haver. You know? I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, I can tell.
All I heard was butts.
That was a poignant.
Yeah, I think it was important, and it had to be said. Really,
You grabbed my attention.
Gabe Newell. If you are listening, just don't stop being a butt haver. Come on.
Yeah.
No. God, what was it? I was about to say the main problem with Greenlight was that. Yep, it's gone to me. It's lost.
All right, well, thanks,
Lost
Rob.
to
That was a
eternity.
really good.
Yeah, no problem. But the earlier point is still. I don't think a massive like ratio really is going to affect any positive. Oh, this is the thing. This is what it was that there's.
Don't forget it.
Yeah, well, now it's gone. Yeah, thanks. No, there's a problem with the wording or kind of the idea of what Greenlight is. I think, in that like. A lot of people think like, oh, this is sort of like a Kickstarter, right? It's like, oh, we're going to submit our game to potentially be on Steam one day when it's done, right?
Yeah.
We have a bunch of great ideas, and then it'll be... But then you have games that come out like Towns, and they're like, oh, wait, we're going to be on Steam now? No, we're in alpha. We're not done with the game. This isn't buyable.
Yeah,
We
if
just
like
wanted
whatever,
to
just
say-
sell it for $15. It'll be fine.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's sort of the problem, is that I think a lot of game developers are confused or don't really care, because, I mean, you don't want... Like, because here's the thing, you put the developers in a weird situation, right? Because you could say, like, okay, we'll make a playable game that is a game and a release, and say that's what you can put on Greenlight, right? But then the developer doesn't want to do that either, because then they're going to spend, like, a month after the game is done not being sold. And they're not doing anything to the game, right? Or and that's if they manage to get on Greenlight. So you have to submit it early before the game's done, otherwise you don't know, and you have to analyze your options. Because now you don't have the same sort of avenues that you used to have, where you submit it to Steam, and Steam tells you whether or not you could be on there, you have to go through Greenlight, right? So it's, I don't know, it's like a tough...
Well, I mean, there are a number of games that have been greenlit and are not released yet, simply because they're not done. That is a thing that happens. It's not always a Town situation. They're not demanded to be on Steam immediately. So, yeah, I don't know how things like Towns happens. I think they just kind of don't get it. They're just like, yeah, we have a game and we can sell it, sure, yeah. Here, buy it.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do that. Like, once you're greenlit forever, and you can finish your game however long it takes you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, too, is that, like, people are cool with the Minecraft model, like how Minecraft did it. Because Minecraft isn't on
just
Steam.
release
It's
your
like
alpha.
Unfinished game, alpha, you accept that. But I think Greenlight, maybe there should be like a little disclaimer, or a little, like maybe the text should be, like in your library should be in green or something, and say like, hey, this isn't necessarily a game. You might be supporting this through its development process.
Yeah.
So... be warned about that. This is more Minecraft than it is, something else.
Well, maybe that's the thing, right? Maybe Valve just cast too wide a net, Because I'm imagining if I try to greenlight a game, right? What do I need? I need a picture and a description box, and then it goes through, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Exactly. So maybe it should be like, I need a picture, a description box, a small working demo, maybe a description of the game mechanics, a video, some screenshots. Like I need to list some related games that have similar mechanics or are based on a similar idea, maybe some games that were inspirations, like, I think there should be more of a filter on just what it takes to actually submit a game into Greenlight, you know?
For sure.
And that's
Yeah,
probably
'cause
what's
Greenlight's
causing part
biggest
of the
obstacle right
confusion,
now-
You know, it's like, yeah, I've got a great game idea. Let me type a description box. In this game, you pick blueberries and mushrooms and make different soups. And then I put a picture of soup. And that's all great. And maybe it gets greenlit. But that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And I just took a potential little viewing slot from a game that someone's just put 2 years into, that's got videos and pictures and a small playable demo and a link to a Newgrounds and a link to a review and a link to a let's play or a let's look at. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, maybe just the barrier for entry should be greater. You know, I think Valve may have taken it to an extreme. And I think for good reason, also. I think it's better to start at an extremely open platform and slowly limit it until you find a good kind of equilibrium.
Yeah, I agree with that, totally. Yeah, the greatest obstacle right now in Greenlight, though, is that, like you said, there's a bunch of bullshit that is not... Nobody's going to vote for it, nobody's going to be interested in it, but it takes slots away from things that could be good. And that, yeah, I agree with you completely. They just need to narrow it down, make it so that not anybody can put a thing on Greenlight, make it so you have to have something, show that you have something, and then you can be on Greenlight. That's all I ask, because if that was the qualification, then like 70-80% of the stuff on Greenlight would be gone.
Right, it just wouldn't make it
and then
on.
it would be so much easier to sort through the remaining 20%.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the example that I thought of immediately off the top of my head was like, look at like Android apps compared to like iOS apps. You know, yes, there's a lot more of them on Android, but some of them are just links to websites. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of them you download the app, you press the app, and it just opens the I was going to say Internet Explorer. It opens, you know, like Chrome or whatever it is that you're using, and it opens the website. And it's like, that's not an app. You didn't make an app. You didn't. That's not an app. That's a link. You made a link that's clickable, and that's not even that fantastic. If you made a link that's not clickable, maybe I'd be more angry, you know? Like, so, you know, and then you look at the iOS apps where it's like, wow, okay, they all have a nice icon, you know? And none of them have mature content and all those things. And yes, I don't think Valve has the personnel to sort through all these Greenlight games. But by just making it more of an effort to do it, maybe they'd get less submissions. And I think that people that are actually trying to put their game out there and trying to get into Steam would do it. They would jump through the loopholes not the loopholes. They would jump through kind of, you know, the rings of fire and the barriers and all those things to get it on there and to get it exposure. And the people that just have an idea they want to jot down somewhere and look for public approval, they can go to a place like Reddit and do that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I think Valve may have just overextended, you know? Just as far as...
Yeah, it was an experiment, like Gabe said. It's not... It wasn't supposed to be final at any point. They were just screwing around, seeing what works. Yeah. And it didn't work.
And look,
and that's fine.
You know, I'm glad that they're the type of company that
did.
takes a step back and says, you know what? This has created a bottleneck, and that's not what we wanted it to do. We wanted to solve a problem. It clearly didn't. We're sorry about that. We're rethinking it. It's going to be better.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's great. Having the willingness to experiment is what we've been talking about this whole time. It's such a good thing for a company to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. Because if you can experiment, you can come up with something great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you guys want to start taking some chat questions?
Yeah. We might actually just want to read directly from the chat as far as questions are concerned, considering we're already an hour and a half in.
That is true. All right. Ask your questions quickly. Type them.
Oh, no.
Don't think about what you're typing.
Okay.
Just put some words in a question mark.
Go.
We're asking for Cam questions here.
Questions? Question mark.
I was about to say that, Rob.
Yeah.
How was your day today?
How was your day today? It was okay.
It was good.
This question?
It was a good day. Boob?
Yes. I will.
We all
I
use
will say
Camtasia
yes.
to record Isaac.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
We use Camtasia to record Isaac. Zen actually uses Fraps, and he records his Aero desktop.
What a filthy
Does it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, his way seems way more complicated, but he doesn't have to get Camtasia. So.
favorite brand of condom, I would have to say that my favorite brand of condom is a oh damn it, what is it called?
Trojan?
Something condom for my Magnum dong. That's the best quote I
Oh
got.
my god. Something condom for my Magnum dong. Well, we got an
That's the
episode
quote from
title.
Always Sunny, yeah.
Magnum condoms.
No, but from Always Sunny, what does Frank say in the show? It's like oh look, I dropped this here.
He says Magnum condom. Magnum condom
Yes.
for my Magnum
It
dogs.
is Magnums. Yeah.
No,
No, it's a Magnum. You're right.
Ask more questions. I know it's a different Magnum dong.
You're looking up Magnum dong on the internet.
I'm looking up Magnum dong right now. I will find. Oh, that's it. Monster condom.
Monster condom.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Are you sure that's not? You're not thinking of
the
the energy drink.
No, Monster. This is the. I will link the video in the chat.
Search it on images. Okay, here we go. And Rob's banned from my chat for posting porn. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah. Oh,
In
whoops!
the box.
I dropped
Condom.
my monster condom for my Magnum dong. The joke is that he said it backwards. That's the joke. That's right.
Welcome back to
Yeah.
Rob Explains the
Well,
Joke.
you guys were like, "Are you sure it wasn't the other way around?" And it's like, "Yeah, that's the fucking joke." He says it wrong because he's stupid. But
Back to
anyway.
Rob Explains the Joke of the Joke.
Well, yeah, that's the joke, is that I was explaining the joke so that I could explain the joke while I explain the joke and you explain jokes.
You've gone too far.
Oh no, we've divided by 0. What's in the box?
Condoms.
I will
Yeah, that's
spoil
a
the
good
movie. It is Brad Pitt's boner. Is in the box. That could be a title for the podcast right there. Brad Pitt's boner.
Nope, sorry, you ruined it. It's already going to be the other thing. I already forgot what it was. All right, maybe it won't be that.
Yeah, Brad Pitt's boner. Good times.
Drunk dice game with Cam when he gets his internet fixed. Maybe. Probably not tonight. Maybe tonight. I don't know. I don't know what happens.
Who's excited for Rockstar Mayhem Fest? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
I'm pretty
I just
excited.
felt like
Am I hammered yet? No, I haven't had any alcohol at all.
Yeah, what are you even
We'll get
drunk
there, though,
about?
don't worry.
Yeah, I'll work on that later on.
Why we know get more Don't Starve? My Don't Starve stopped working, so I gotta fix that. I don't know. It stopped opening, so I'll try to fix that.
Well then.
Let's see. Let me scroll up a little bit.
Do you guys plan on staying together as a group, or is this a temporary thing? No, we all hate each other, really. Until we've used up each other in our own ways, then we'll never talk to each other ever again.
As soon as I stop seeing positive tendencies in my analytics every time I do a video with these guys, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah, really. There's no,
the only
there's no
reason I'm
point
here.
after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only here to remind people to unsubscribe from my channel.
It's true, yeah. Yeah, it's an important.
You really should do just videos where you talk about economics or something.
You
People would
should,
watch the
that'd be
shit about
hilarious.
that. Out of that.
Yeah. People would watch their shit about that.
Yeah, man.
Just take a dump on the floor and be like, all right, now I'm going to watch Dennis's video.
Am I gonna start making Isaac challenge runs again? It's been a while, hasn't it? I never stopped officially. That's like my filler when I don't want to record anything else. And lately I've wanted to record other things, so I've done that.
Yeah?
How dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah, some serious shit. Peepat gently strokes Spyro's wool. I don't think that's a question.
All right, time to ban him again.
Butts, bucks, or boobs? Can I have all three?
In all honesty, how high is your attention span when recording with these guys? I'm not sure what he means by that.
Yeah.
Wait, what did he ask?
I think this is someone who perhaps is not aware that we stream together like every night. So the attention span is very high.
Yeah.
We have a lot of leeway.
Yeah.
Funniest story from childhood.
Well, that was funny. I don't fucking know. I don't remember anything funny happening to me when I was a kid.
Boring little child. I didn't do
I had to sit in the corner a
I found
lot.
a bunch of rat bones once in a swamp.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
hilarious.
That's not funny at all. Yeah, that's not. That sounds like a traumatic experience that you had. All right, most traumatic experience from your childhood.
Oh, I got this one. When I was a little kid, I picked up a soldering iron.
Oh.
Yep. Picked it up and held it in my hand while I looked at my mom crying. Did not put it down. Just a really stupid little kid.
What?
Well, because after a while the burn stops burning as much.
I thought you were looking at your mom and your mom was crying and you were just like, "What's wrong?" No. Your hand is like sizzling away.
Your skin melting off. Oh God, no! Like, hey, what's the problem? What, is a fucking soldering iron? What do you got?
You got a problem?
In like 3rd grade, we were making T-shirts for like this field day thing. We were, ironing the patterns onto the T-shirts, and I'm getting mine ironed, and the teacher's there ironing. She picks up the iron and put, how the iron stand like up and down. She picks it up and just puts it right on my forearm, like the hot part.
Ow!
Like, wow! She's not even paying attention.
What a douchebag!
It was an accident, but she was just like completely avoid of attention. And I sat there like I did not notice for a second. And then I realized, and I was like, I'm gonna go cry. Third grade, and yeah.
Actually, the only like maybe the worst injury that I've had, besides scars on my face from getting punched, was like you ever have those like plastic cutting boards that have like a knife on the cutting board and you like slice things with? You know what I'm talking about? It's like a
thing that you bring down, like a paper cutter.
Yeah,
no. Like it's like so. Like imagine like a cutting board, right? But in the middle of the cutting board is like this slightly angled like blade, and what you do is like you take like an onion and you move it back and forth, and it slices off pieces of the onion.
That sounds genius, but also terrible.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Well. Speaking to the danger. One time it was it was cool because I was like, oh, this is awesome. I was cutting an onion for like my mom was making the soup or something. She's like, yeah, why don't you cut the onion? You have a fun time doing that. And I was like, all right, I'll cut the onion. So I'm cutting the onion for a while, and then I get kind of bored, so I start cutting faster and faster. Ends up cutting off like literally the entire tip of my middle finger, so that it's like hanging off, and I'm just gushing blood from the finger. Because if you've ever cut your finger, it just bleeds like crazy.
A lot.
Yeah. So that was hanging off. But I've always been deathly afraid of stitches since even then. Even now, like I have, like Dennis could tell you, I have the scars over my eye because I don't want stitches. I don't want them. I don't like them. So what I did is we wrapped it up in gauze and hoped it stopped bleeding, and it did eventually, and it healed, and I was fine.
YOLO.
Yeah.
I had to get stitches once in my chin, because we had one of those little pedal go-karts, and one of my brother's older friends was like, I get in the go-kart, I'll push you, go real fast. I'm like, Sonic, okay, you go. And so I got into the go-kart, and he starts pushing me, and going pretty fast, faster than this little pedal go-kart should go, and I'm a little child. I don't know what to do, so I turn the steering wheel to turn. Turns out, when you're going too fast, you're not supposed to take a sharp turn. Took a sharp turn. The whole thing flips over to the left. I fly out and do like 3 flips, landing on the concrete. Each time I flip, I land on my chin.
Oh!
And, yeah. It was fun.
That sucks.
I had to get stitches in the chin. And it turns out when you're in the emergency room and they're sticking a needle inside of your face, it's a little bit traumatizing. I'm not gonna
exactly.
Yeah,
this is exactly why I don't do stitches. I don't do that. I'm not that way. Even if I get like a giant fucking gash in my arm, I'll be like, I'm fine. Don't worry. I'll just.
So wait, do you not like getting blood taken from you either?
I've never done that, so. Probably not.
I'd rather do it like 3 or 4 times.
Probably not. Also, I probably have never had the kind of blood that anyone else wants in their body.
But have you gotten like shot? I guess you were afraid of shot.
Have I gotten shot? No, I haven't been shot. I've been like Harlem or Washington Heights.
I swear we have my dermatologist. Every time I go to like get a checkup, because they gotta check for that cancer. That skin cancer. he's just like, all right, let's count. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're remove 4 moles. Okay, let's do that. It's like, nah. He just like picks them up. Like, okay, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. We're gonna take that one off and that one. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like I don't like going to him because you're gonna get the shit cut off.
Actually, to your story of, oh wait, hold on. I have 2 stories. One involves me. One doesn't involve me, sort of. So, like, to the story of, like, you flipping over, this really funny thing happened to me when I was riding around in my park when I was a kid. So, like, there was, like, this building that had, like, it was like a brick building, at a playground that has, like, the bathrooms and stuff or whatever. So that was a big square, or a cube, anyway. And I was riding my bike, and I was riding it really fast, and I rode around the corner, right? And I obviously can't see what's around the corner because I'm not Superman. I was riding real fast. And turns out there was another kid who had the same idea, ride as fast as possible around a blind side. A lesson we learned that day was a bad decision, as we both crashed into each other and both flew over the handlebars in opposite directions and landed on the ground. And I just always thought that must have looked so funny to anyone else watching.
Yeah, it's too bad that wasn't on tape.
I know. I would.
America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention was in that very same playground. So there's like the little playground area, right, where it has like a slide and all that shit, and where you walk up on the playground and whatever. So kids were playing tag, and I saw this one kid runs underneath the playground because it's like elevated, where people like go on like little monkey bars or whatever. So he runs underneath it, but like it's a flat wooden platform, right? But then on the side of each of the platforms is like these little metal lips that maybe are like 3 inches, right? Down. I don't know why they have them there, maybe for support or whatever, but so they have the little metal lips. So anyway, the kid is just tall enough to hit that. So I see him running full speed, and I'm like, oh, that's going to be bad. And he ducks under the first one. It's like, oh, okay, fine. But there's another one on the other side. He didn't have the foresight to keep his head down, smashes right into it, cracks his head open. I think he's dead, because I never saw him again. But,
what?
Yeah, he had cracked his skull open. The ambulance came. He wasn't moving. So...
Oh.
That got
Yeah.
That's not funny anymore.
It's kind of funny. I think
it's funny.
I think the ambiguousness of me not knowing whether or not he survived is the funny aspect of it.
Okay, well,
to lighten up the mood, I could tell a funny story about my brother. We were skiing and snowboarding up in Colorado, and
wait.
kind of a dangerous
were
thing
you
to
skiing
do, right?
or were you snowboarding? Fucking make a decision here, Austin.
I was skiing and he was snowboarding.
Okay.
So, it's very common to break a limb while you're skiing or snowboarding. Very easy to fall while you're going fast downhill. Not uncommon, but my brother is literally standing still, not moving on his snowboard, and he kind of just falls over. Like, just kind of trips and falls and breaks his collarbone.
Wow.
Literally just by falling over.
Huh.
It's like...
Yeah.
And of course, like when he goes home, he was like, "Oh yeah, no, I was going like 50 miles per hour through trees, like on fire, fighting a whale, and I broke my collarbone." But no, he literally just fell, completely stationary.
That's pretty hilarious.
When I was in high school, I was in the circus, and I knew a girl who did she did acrobatics, she did trapeze, she did all this crazy, insanely dangerous shit. She broke her arm one time. Here's what happened. She was walking along the street with her friends, just on the sidewalk, and tripped over nothing and fell on her arm, and it broke. It's the only bone.
Coordinated her.
She never broke any bones or got injured at all in circus acts whatsoever. Not at all. That's the injury that she got during high school. And that was while she was in the circus, too. It was so funny. So she was out of commission from all of her acts for a while as a result of that. And everybody laughed
hilarious.
at her.
Yeah, I mean...
I, later on during that same trip, skiing and snowboarding, I went down a hill with moguls, if you know what moguls are. I think that's what they're called. Yeah, they're basically little just tiny hills on the hill. They're hills on hills on hills. And I went down, everything was going fine, and then one ski went on one hill and one ski went on the other hill. And if you're a science person, I think you know that men are not supposed to do the splits. It's just not a thing that they do. But
I've
did
known
it.
men who can do the splits.
Well, yeah, some can, but if you're not one who does that often, it's a very not
bad
fun
times, for
experience. And so essentially, one ski went one way, one ski went completely 180 degrees the other way, going downhill, mind you, very fast.
That sucks.
And yeah, it basically did a split, smack my nuts at the same time.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Actually, wait, no, not a lot of fun. That's what I meant to say.
You ever speaking of nuts, you ever accidentally like just tap yourself on the nuts and just feel like an idiot?
That's a very
No.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
You've never done. You
Not
never
very
like
easy
gone
to
for
do.
a high five and accidentally just slightly grazed your nuts and
What?
Just, you've never done that.
Where are you keeping your nuts?
You must have tiny nuts. But yeah, like I don't know. It's just like sometimes you just like go for something and you just or like you stand up the wrong way and then you just tap your nuts and then it's just like, oh god damn it, I have to sit down for a moment.
What are
I
your
need a
hands
moment.
doing so close to your nuts that you accidentally tap them?
I
What are
keep
you
my
attempting?
hands,
What are you
near my
trying
nuts
to
at all
tap?
times. I don't know, like a high
What are you
five or
missing?
something. That happens. This happens all the
A
time.
high five?
I think that
Not
would be
all
a
the
low
time,
five.
but like, yeah, maybe a low five, perhaps more.
Maybe.
Why is
Perhaps
the,
a low five.
Why is the other person's hands next to your nut when you're trying to do a high five?
Well, he doesn't. It's not him tapping my nuts.
No, but you're going for his hand.
Oh, I get it now. He's missing the high. Like you missed the high five and follow through.
Are you fucking
follow
kidding me?
through
So
with the high
your hand goes in this huge fucking arc and goes all the way around to your nuts?
Yeah. You've never. So you're saying you have never been hit in the nuts by yourself? You've never done that? Never once.
I've hit myself in the nuts, but in much less stupid ways than that.
Like how? How?
I was in karate and I was
Explain
learning how to
master
use
of nuts.
I was learning how to use nunchucks, and those are easy. Those are really easy to hit yourself in the nuts with.
Yeah,
really,
I've
really
done that
easy.
before too. Actually,
Yeah.
that's not a good time.
I'm still just picturing the miss of the high five.
It's a fun
See,
time. It's hilarious.
I've missed a high five. I've had you miss a high five, and me and the other high fiver both flew forward in opposite directions and crashed to the ground. That's what we
You
did.
guys are way too enthusiastic with your high fives.
Yeah, you gotta put all your energy into the high five.
I don't know, but like I just have enough awareness of where my nuts are that when I miss a high five, my instinct isn't just wherever my hand goes, fuck it. You know, like I'll get it under control before it hits me in the nuts. I'll realize I'm about to hit myself in the nuts.
You gotta have those like running start high fives where you leap into the air and like
Yeah.
freeze midair.
That one's good.
Those are the
Actually,
best.
me and my friend did like you know the like body five. Well, it's not really a body five. I guess it's body one, where you chest bump. Anyway, so we saw each other from like 30 feet away, and
sprinted.
yeah, just sprinted and tackled each other. Didn't feel good. It was really, really bad. It
I've done
hurt
that
a lot.
one.
We were
Yeah.
out of breath. It's real bad.
Yeah, I did one of those with my friend who is like, 4 or 5 inches taller than me and much, much heavier, and I fell down. He won that engagement.
He was the alpha male that day.
Yeah.
But yeah. Actually, here's fun fact: if you guys are gonna fight somebody, here's the thing that you should do: if you go in to punch,
High five them.
hold your breath. That's what you got to do. You got to make sure you hold your breath, because if you don't hold your breath and you get punched in the body, you are going down, because you will lose all of your oxygen. So there's
So next time you try to do a chest bump,
yes, make sure your
hold your
breath
breath.
is held.
Yep.
Guard your nuts.
And make sure the other guy
hope
weighs
the best.
substantially less than you.
Yeah.
It's the best way to do it.
Yep. Is Dennis's mic muted? Is that a thing that happened?
Yep. Hello.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Hey, welcome back, Dennis.
I was just laughing most of the
All right,
time.
so
I
that's
wasn't
a-
saying much.
That's one medal of shame.
Yep. No. I think I've only done it once this whole stream. Come on, you guys.
Yeah,
should
that's
be-
really good.
I should get an award of less shame or something.
If you ever get through an entire podcast without muting your mic, then you will get an award.
Okay.
That would be pretty impressive.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll try. I'll try. We, by the way, have
Dennis doesn't
derailed
like-
this so much that there are no longer questions in the chat.
Yeah, people forgot his question.
It was just
Well, we are coming up on 2
fatality.
hours, so it might
Yeah,
be about
yeah.
time to
Oh,
start
wow,
pitching
yeah.
channels and signing out.
I like to pinch my channel.
Can we put me and Rob are on the same
Yep,
page?
The-
there?
yep.
That's
I was
similar to
talking
pinching
about
your
my
nuts.
penis.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I was talking about.
You were talking about my penis too. Let's be honest, Austin.
I
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
I
Austin's channel is Rob's penis. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
So if you want to get more of Austin, definitely check out Rob's pants. Where can we find your channel, Rob?
In my pants. It's there.
Okay.
Too.
yeah.
Yep.
And
all
Dennis?
of our all the channels. That's where YouTube is located.
Yeah, it's inside of my pants. So, yeah, common misconception. Everything in the universe located within my boxers. Contained.
I don't think anyone misconceived that. I just think they don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
They didn't think it was like in Bill O'Reilly's pants or some other random.
Well,
person.
it's
That's true. Yeah.
It's reasonable to assume that the universe isn't in anybody's pants, I think.
Right. That could be the misconception there.
If you don't know, it's just like it's easy to think that the Earth is flat if you don't know.
Right.
It's just one of those things that's not obvious until you know it, and then you're like, oh, so many things make sense now.
Yeah. But now you know.
That's how the sun goes up and down. It's Rob's
Right.
pants.
It's my pants. Yeah. It's every time I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's when rain happens.
Yeah. When it's a really hot day out is when
Yeah.
rain happens.
God. Let's just continue.
Apparently, this is going to be the longest
Let's not
animation
get to
ever.
when it starts to snow. That's what I don't want to.
Yeah, the past half hour is gonna be
Yeah,
animated.
the past half hour episode has been like, this is an animation. Animation time. Okay, I'm animating this first.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Rob, where can we find you on the internet?
Well, I am at youtube.com/alpaca patrol, which is an alpaca that patrols, which is what I am. And I have been doing, like, the most stuff that I've been doing is StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm right now. Just the single-player campaign because I'm god-awful at the multiplayer. And I'm pretty equally awful at the single-player, but I love the story and have since I was a small lad. So if you enjoy StarCraft 2 single-player, then go watch that on my channel, youtube.com/alpaca patrol, plus Isaac every day. For the most part, I've had some technical issues recently. And Don't Starve, and FTL when I decide to bring that back, whenever that may be. And Zelda, Twilight Princess, still a Let's Play that's going on. And then you can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/alpaca patrol, or at alpaca patrol, and then on Twitch, twitch.tv/alpaca patrol. Obviously, I very rarely stream, but usually we all stream every night anyway, so, follow everyone on Twitch.
Yeah, and on Twitter. We usually tweet about it when we're streaming.
Yeah, that too.
So, Austin, what about you? What's your internet
Well,
activity?
right now you can find me at twitch.tv/last_gray_wolf, where I stream every night at now a different 1 hour later, 8 o'clock Central, because of daylight savings and its stupidity and stupidness. And I will actually start making YouTube videos again soon, very soon, because just waiting for things to calm down in the IRL scene, because I'm lame and I say things like the IRL scene.
Yeah.
But yeah,
He's waiting for his
so,
sister to come back.
I am. But you can find me at twitch.tv/last_gray_wolf. In fact, if you're watching live right now, I'm going to be live very, very shortly afterwards. So go ahead and check that out.
Don't do that. Dennis, what about you?
So you can find me on the internet, and I'm not going to
And
tell
in
you
Japan.
where to find me, but if you've already found me, unsubscribe.
That's youtube.com/definitelydennis.
Damn it.
And Zen was here earlier. He had to take off because I think he had to go pick up his wife. But if you want to find more of him, he is at youtube.com/zenandcyrene. And obviously all of these dudes' channels and everything will be in the description. So definitely check that out if you are interested. And we'll see you guys next time.
Adios.
High five.
Boobies.
Nope.
I love you all.
Am I supposed to press the stop button?